Alright, this is my final project telling the story of the Sonoran Desert for our class. I'm going to be covering modules 1, 3, 4, 9, and 13. While I cover those modules, I'll bring up examples of different species and things that interplay into it, and also how it kind of factors into my personal life. I've learned a lot from this course, and to be honest, I feel like every day now when I'm driving, I'm on the golf course, walking around, when I'm with friends, I'll be pointing to, random animals that we see when we're out hiking or random plants that we see. And I'll be like, oh, this is that. And my friends are like, oh, no way. And I'm like, yep, you can look it up. Like, I know that for sure. And it's something I haven't been able to do before. And I think that kind of plays into maybe nature blindness, which we talked about earlier in the course. I think I was definitely susceptible to that. And I think being aware of all these things has helped me kind of overcome that. But anyways, let's get into the important part and start going over the different modules and what we learned.
Alright, let's start with Module 1, Intro to the Sonoran Desert. So for me, something I learned is growing up in Arizona, I always kind of assumed desert just meant hot. But one thing I learned is that the key feature is aridity and dryness. If we were to go over to the Gobi Desert, as you can see here as it is on the map, this is actually a cold desert. Another feature that these deserts share is their extreme temperatures. We can even take it a step further and go from the Gobi Desert all the way to Antarctica. Antarctica is considered a polar desert, with once again extremely dry and extreme temperatures. There are also rain-shadow deserts, which remain dry because they're on the leeward side of a mountain, which is blocking the moisture from the winds passing through. The last thing I'll touch on for Module 1 is the Sonoran Desert's great biodiversity. As one of the most biodiverse places in the entire world, it's home to over 2,000 different species. Next, we'll get into the geological history and landscape formation of the Sonoran Desert. Many geological forces contribute to the look and landscape of the Sonoran Desert through tectonic events, erosion, volcanic activity, and tons of other things. The landscape of the Sonoran Desert is primarily decided by these factors. These activities then form all sorts of different landforms. Landforms and their soils provide many different means of life for many different kinds of animals and plants. Right here we look at a Bajada, but there are several other kinds as well. The alluvial fan is another prime example, and these different landforms allow different species to thrive. Some notable species you might spot in the Bajada are the desert tortoise as well as the kangaroo rat. Next thing we'll talk about is climate patterns and weather systems. The Sonoran Desert's vast biodiversity relies on its one-of-a-kind bimodal rainfall pattern. The winter tends to bring forth steady and widespread precipitation that supports wildflowers, grasses, and shrubs. These in turn feed herbivores and then their predators. Summer monsoons, on the other hand, bring short and intense storms that replenish water sources, help start germination, and create temporary habitats for amphibians and insects. With all these temperature extremes going on, it's very important that these animals find microclimates to take care of themselves. Whether that's chilling under the shade of a rock or a cactus, anything that can help these animals stay alive during these extreme times is very important. Next up, we'll touch on Module 9, Conservation Challenges and Strategies. Human development is reshaping the desert. Urban expansion in cities like Phoenix and Tucson is causing major habitat loss and fragmentation, isolating wildlife and disrupting natural processes like pollination and seed dispersion. Agricultural expansion also messes with natural processes because of things like water overuse, soil degradation, and pesticide pollution. Another thing is that water scarcity is central to the crisis. The Sonoran Desert ecosystems depend on limited and fragile water resources, but agriculture consumes the majority of available water. Over-extraction of groundwater is leading to aquifer depletion, land subsidence, and habitat collapse. This is a major threat to biodiversity. Sustainable water management practices, like rainwater harvesting and efficient irrigation, help out a lot. The last module I'll cover is Module 13, which is nature watching in the Sonoran Desert. Nature watching requires ethics and paying attention. There are several different practices we must adopt to ensure that we are doing this the right way. The first thing we'll talk about is leaving no trace and making sure the environment looks the exact same way you found it by the time you leave. You must consider that any food or water or any drinks you might bring, that all has to come out because it's all going to turn into trash. Pack only the essentials and bare minimum, and make sure you have trash bags and anything else you may need to haul out any waste to ensure it's not left behind. The next thing that we should talk about is keeping a safe distance. You want to do your best to do this for both your safety and that of the animal. You don't want them to know you're there because you don't want to create any sort of disruptions or harm any of their natural processes. Another thing we can do while we're observing nature is nature journaling. This helps strengthen our personal connection and improves observation while also producing informal data about weather, blooms, wildlife, behavior, and things of that nature. You can jot some things down in your notebook, or you can use all sorts of apps like iNaturalist and eBird, which we have already used in class.
That's going to conclude my video project. I not only learned all sorts of stuff throughout the modules, which I presented in the video, but also a lot on a personal level. As I mentioned earlier, I've taken a lot more of an interest into the Sonoran Desert and all the things I've learned about it. This has helped me sort of understand nature blindness and what it is, and I think through that I can help inform others about it and try to make others aware of the things that go on and what we need to do in terms of citizen science to help conserve the Sonoran Desert. It's important that we use citizen science and apps like iNaturalist and eBird to not only identify species so we know what they are, but to potentially identify invasive species and different species that may be migrating and moving in and things of that nature. A common misconception is that we should just leave it to the scientists when it comes to conservation, but in reality, it takes all of us to do that. And I think, once again, this course has helped me produce a deeper understanding and appreciation for that, and that will help me further these sorts of things in my personal life. Thank you.